What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Juice Alert. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. I want to talk some baseball at this moment. So we officially have our World Series matchup for 2020. Los Angeles Dodgers versus Tampa Bay Rays. These two teams are very, very good teams. Obviously, both have excellent pitching staffs. Both have very good, solid lineups, top to bottom. And recently, the Rays, they made the World Series by knocking off the Houston Astros 4-3 in the ALCS. And the Dodgers, they recently just knocked off the Atlanta Braves in the NLCS. So, who's going to win this World Series matchup, the 2020 World Series? Who's going to win? In my opinion, I believe the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to defeat the Tampa Bay Rays in 6 games in the 2020 World Series. My preseason pick for the World Series was actually Yankees over Dodgers. The Yankees did disappoint me. The Tampa Bay Rays, they pretty much, said that prediction needs to go out the window. We'll take care of the Yankees for you. And the Yankees disappointed. But the Dodgers, they're here in this big game. And I'm going to pick the Dodgers to win the World Series in 6 games, like I said, okay? In my opinion, the Dodgers are just a little bit more talented version of the Tampa Bay Rays. And I know the Tampa Bay Rays are a very good, solid team. They've been very good wire to wire all season. But I'm going to pick the Dodgers to win the World Series for a couple of reasons. Momentum is clearly on the Los Angeles Dodgers side for this World Series matchup, heading into game number 1 especially. If you've been following the MLB playoffs, you know that the Los Angeles Dodgers were down 3-1 to the Atlanta Braves. But the Los Angeles Dodgers rallied off 3 straight victories. I'm convinced at this point that Atlanta sports are just cursed, whether it be the Falcons or the Braves. Atlanta, Georgia football too. Georgia, blew a national title game to the Alabama Crimson Tide a couple years ago. Georgia just got mollywopped and destroyed by Alabama recently. Not really destroyed, but Alabama dominated that game. But I'm convinced that Atlanta sports are cursed, like I said. But the Dodgers were down 3-1 in that Atlanta Braves series. And now, heading into this series, they're versus Tampa Bay, they're coming off 3 straight victories. They are a hot ball club right now, and I don't see the firepower that the Los Angeles Dodgers present to the table cooling off at any point during this series. I believe the Dodgers will win this series in 6 games. If you look at the Rays were lucky to squeak by the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros were down 3-0, and they forced a game number 7, and Tampa Bay barely squeaked by and won that series versus Houston. And I'm not saying Houston is a bad team. Houston's a very talented team, but they've not been the same Houston Astros of old over the past couple of years. As Houston, they were a below 500 team in the regular season. And if you're the Tampa Bay Rays, you should have closed that series out a lot sooner than you did. And like I said, the Dodgers, they're coming in hot. I just believe the Dodgers have too much firepower for the Tampa Bay Rays. And that is going to be the undoing for the Rays in this series. We saw the Los Angeles Dodgers in game number 3 versus Atlanta. At one point in that game, they scored 15 runs in 3 straight innings. That's crazy. 15 runs in 3 straight innings to start the game versus Atlanta in game number 3. That shows you how much firepower the Los Angeles Dodgers have. And while Tampa Bay has an excellent pitching staff, a pretty solid bullpen, I don't think that pitching staff will be able to carry them in a 7-game series versus the Dodgers. Like, for example, in the ALDS or the wild card round, you could see a very good ball club that's won a bunch of games in the regular season get knocked off simply because sometimes your bats get a little cold for about a 2 to 3 game stretch. But in a best of 7 series, if you're going to beat the LA Dodgers 4 times, good luck. And as good as Tampa Bay is, I don't think they have the firepower to beat the Dodgers. I just don't. I think the Dodgers are going to win this series. Obviously, Cody Bellinger's a stud. Now, Cody Bellinger is dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury, so that is something to keep your eye on during this series, but I believe that he'll be fine. Just his presence in the lineup, definitely helps out the Dodgers. Mookie Betts, he's excellent. He's a great player. Turner, even A.J. Pollock, Corey Seager. I mean, the Dodgers, their lineup is just so stacked, man, and their starting pitching is pretty good as well. And Clayton Kershaw, he's going to get the start in game number 1 on the mound for the Dodgers, and I believe that Clayton Kershaw is going to pitch one of the best games of his career in game number 1. I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to trust Clayton Kershaw to come through this time around. We've seen Clayton Kershaw, be great in the regular season, but sometimes shrink in the playoffs. In the past, I've called Clayton Kershaw the biggest choker in sports history just because we've seen him be an all-time great in the regular season consistently, and in the postseason, he has not consistently been an all-time great. Some players, elevate under pressure in the playoffs. Some players stay the same under pressure, and some players shrink under pressure. And Clayton Kershaw, we've seen this guy time and time again shrink under pressure in the playoffs. But I believe that Clayton Kershaw will right the ship, at least in game number 1. And I believe the Los Angeles Dodgers will beat the Tampa Bay Rays in 6 games during the 2020 World Series for all the reasons that I mentioned. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.